Hello there and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Michelle Emerson and I am a 4th grade teacher in Maryland. At the beginning of March, my district transitioned to hybrid learning, and we are in a concurrent format, which means I am teaching in-person students at the exact same time that I am teaching virtual students. And the number one question I have gotten is, Michelle, how are you setting up your technology to make this work? So in today's video, I'm going to show you step by step the best way I personally have found to manage in-person teaching and virtual teaching at the same time. Now, because I am at home, obviously my setup is a little bit different. So I'm gonna be using my iMac to represent my desktop computer at school, and I'm going to be using my MacBook to represent my school laptop. Obviously, I do not have a projector here at home, so I'm gonna be using my TV, it's over there, you can't see it yet, to kind of represent what I would be projecting on the board for my in-person students in the classroom. Obviously, the actual technology that you're using doesn't quite matter in terms of what desktop computer you're using or what laptop, but for the sake of this video, I'm just gonna show you how I kind of balance what I have on my laptop, what I have on my desktop, how I'm presenting it, how I'm sharing my screen, all of that. Now, obviously, this exact setup will probably not work for you, but hopefully you can grab at least 1 or 2 ideas to try with your own technology. So without further ado, let's jump into it. When I am hybrid teaching, I use 2 computers, a desktop and a laptop. Previously in the year, when I was teaching all virtually, I was using 1 computer with multiple screens, but now I actually find it easiest just to have 2 separate devices. So hopefully you also have 2 devices that you can use. If not, talk to your technology department, see if they can get you an extra device because it does make your life a lot easier. Now let's start by talking about the desktop and what I specifically open up on there. Now my desktop computer is where I'm going to open up all of the tabs that I use throughout the day for teaching. So these are things I'm going to want to be able to share with my virtual learners by sharing my screen on Google Meet, and all of the things that I'm going to want to project onto my board for my in-person learners. So let me show you just a few examples of some of those tabs I might open throughout the day. So I always have Google Classroom opened up in a tab because that's how I will join into the Google Meet. And if I want to open up and show my students how to access an assignment, I can do that through here as well. Then I typically have my Google Slides, and this is how I communicate directions with both my in-person learners and my virtual learners. So for example, when my in-person learners come in the morning, I would display a slide that has directions for them. And then as my virtual learners are joining in, I would display a slide that has directions. And then we have morning announcements. I actually insert that as a video on the Google Slides and will play it for both my in-person and virtual learners through there. Then I typically will have NEARPOD opened up, and I obviously have the NEARPOD tab where I access my lesson, but I will come back to this in a little bit. I will also open up another tab where I show the student version. Then I typically have Wheel of Names. I'm gonna do a future video all about this website, but I use this to choose either an in-person learner or a virtual learner in order to answer a question. These are not my students, these are just the default names that it had, but you can click on it, it will spin the wheel, and then you will be able to choose a student. So I usually have 2 tabs open with this, so 1 for my roomers and 1 for my Googlers.
Some like confetti comes down.
Yes, there is confetti and applause, which makes it that much more fun. Then I typically have GONOODLE opened up because I like to give my students lots of brain breaks throughout the day. And I have another tab opened up so that I can paste in the NEARPOD link. So let me go ahead and show you that real quick. When I start the NEARPOD link, I will click live participation, and it's going to generate a link and a code. My in-person learners, if they want to join in the NEARPOD, they can just type in that code, so they can go on their Chromebook, open up the NEARPOD website and type in the code. But I also use the link, and I will drop the link in the chat on Google Meet, and I will also post it on my stream. So I will come over to Google Classroom and I will post the link so that way any in-person or virtual learners can actually access it through that link. So I will label this Math NEARPOD link and I will post it. But I will also take that exact same link in another tab and I will paste it, and I will go to it. So that way I actually have both the teacher version and the student version of NEARPOD. So as you can see here, I have the student version of the NEARPOD, and then I also have the teacher version. So on the teacher version, I can click through the different slides, and then on the student version, I can display whatever my in-person students are working on so they see the student version. Now, one last thing that is important to mention from a sound perspective is that I always keep my desktop computer sound completely off. So I'm gonna go ahead and mute it. That is going to help prevent feedback because I'm going to be joining into Google Meet twice, once on my desktop and once on my laptop. Now let's talk about what I have open on my laptop, and it won't take long because I only have 2 tabs open on my laptop. I will have the Google Meet, so I usually start with the Google Classroom tab and then join into the Meet and close out the Google Classroom tab, and my email. That is it. Now, the reason I join into my email on my laptop instead of my desktop is because my desktop is connected to my projector, and I actually project my desktop screen for my in-person learners, and I will be sharing the tab for my virtual learners. I do not want my email to be visible to any of my students, so I keep that tab open on my laptop. I like to have it open so I can peek at it throughout the day in case I get an important email, and I have found that it is easier to have it open on my laptop since I am scooting that around the room on a cart with me throughout the day, and I don't have to worry about any of my students accidentally seeing it because I switched to the tab on my desktop. Now let's get into joining into Google Meet. I already mentioned that I join into the Meet twice, once on my desktop and once on my laptop. Now, let me be clear, my desktop computer that I have at school does not have a camera and does not have a microphone. The only reason I join into the Google Meet on my desktop is so that I can share my tabs. Because my desktop computer is connected to my projector, I can share the tab on Google Meet so my virtual learners can see it, and I can have it projected on the board for my in-person learners. So we're gonna go ahead and join into the Google Meet on the desktop. So I'm gonna click on the Meet link, and I'm going to turn off my camera and microphone. At school, this happens automatically since there is no camera or microphone, and I'm gonna go ahead and join into the Meet. Now, I'm going to join into that same exact Google Meet on my laptop, but this time I'm gonna keep my camera and my microphone on because I'm using the camera and microphone on my laptop to engage with my virtual learners. So, oh yeah, I was playing around with backgrounds. Let's just turn that off. And I'm going to click Join Now. Notice there is no audio feedback because my microphone is off on the desktop computer and my sound is off. I can have all sound coming through my laptop, and it's using the microphone on my laptop in order to hear me. Now let's talk about sharing screens. I want my in-person learners and my virtual learners to see the same thing. So I'm going to use my desktop computer, which again is connected to my projector, in order to share tabs. So on the Google Meet on the desktop, this is so awkward because I can see myself, I'm going to click Present Now, and I'm going to choose a tab. The reason I want to choose a tab is because in order for sound to play for my virtual learners, if I am playing a video, I need to present a tab. If I present my entire window, they're not going to hear the sound. Then I can choose what tab I want to display. So for example, if I want to share the Math NEARPOD, you will notice now on my laptop, you are going to see that exact same screen. So I use my laptop to kind of monitor and make sure that my virtual students are seeing the correct tab. Again, I'm carrying my laptop around the room with me on a cart, so I always have it in front of me and can check and make sure it's the correct tab. Meanwhile, I am presenting this onto my smartboard for my in-person students to see. So right now, my in-person students are seeing the student version of the NEARPOD, and so are my virtual learners. Now here's where it gets just a little bit tricky. Anytime I want to change tabs, I have to make sure I reshare that tab. So for example, if we're taking a break from the math lesson and we are going to a GONOODLE, I'm gonna click on the GONOODLE tab on my desktop, so that way my in-person students are now seeing this tab because it's being projected onto my smartboard, and I'm going to choose Share this tab instead. You will notice it then changes on the Google Meet. So throughout the day, I always just make sure that whatever tab I have opened up on the desktop for my in-person learners is the same one I am sharing on Google Meet for my virtual learners. Now I mentioned if you are going to be playing videos, you have to share a tab. So let's talk a little bit about the audio. Typically, if I were playing a video in class for in-person learners, I would have the sound coming out of my speakers. My desktop computer is connected to the speakers in my room. However, I'm going to get audio feedback issues if I use the sound from the computer. But because I am sharing a Chromebook tab, whatever video I play on the desktop, that sound is going to play out of the computers for my virtual learners. Since I am joined into the Google Meet on my laptop, when I play a video, the sound is going to come out of my laptop. It's not as loud as it would be coming out of my classroom speakers, but it has been loud enough for my in-person students to hear. So I'm gonna use one of these brain breaks as an example. If I was playing this guacamole video, when I click on it, guacamole, and it starts playing, I'm gonna pause it. So the sound is not coming out of the desktop, it's actually coming out of the laptop. Now there is a very slight delay. It's actually worse at home than it is for me at school, but it makes it so I'm not constantly trying to, unmute on the desktop and turn up the sound and then mute on the laptop. That's too much work for me. I just have the sound play out of my laptop for my in-person learners, and then all of my learners at home have the same sound playing out of their device. If I wanted to take the time so that my in-person learners could hear the sound coming out of the speakers, I can take some extra steps to do that. What I would have to do is mute myself on the Google Meet on my laptop and turn off my laptop's sound, because even though I am muted, sound is still coming out from that video playing. So I am muting myself and turning off the sound on the laptop. I am then going to unmute my desktop and turn up the sound. So again, it's automatically connected to my speakers, so that sound will come out of the speakers. And then when I continue playing, we're the besties. Now the sound is coming out of my desktop instead of my laptop, which means it's actually coming out of my classroom speakers, which is going to sound better for my in-person learners. So again, just to demonstrate what I'm talking about with projecting it on the board for in-person learners and sharing my screen for my virtual learners, let's pretend, just pretend for a second, that the TV represents my smartboard in my classroom or any projector. So obviously, as soon as I switch tabs, my in-person learners are seeing that new tab. But you will notice on my laptop, it only changes if I share the new tab. So if I'm going to do a brain break and I click on GONOODLE, I'm then gonna click share this tab instead, so that my virtual learners are seeing the same thing through the Chromebook. Again, there's a little bit of a delay. It's not as delayed at school as it is at home. My internet is a little slow here, but throughout the day, as I click on the different tabs, I just make sure I always share the new tab so that my in-person students and virtual students are seeing the same thing. Finally, let's talk about just a few extras that you might want to consider. You can connect your virtual students and in-person students by allowing your in-person students to see the virtual students and vice versa. I like to do this in the morning during our building community time, but I don't necessarily like to do it during lessons because I think it can be a little bit distracting. So what I'm going to do on my desktop computer is actually stop sharing my screen. So I'm just gonna click on stop, and you will notice on my laptop it's going to disappear and it goes back to showing just the participants, whoever is joined in the Google Meet. Then on my desktop, which again is connected to my projector, I'm going to show the Google Meet tab. So I would click back to the Google Meet tab. Then I will actually pivot my laptop toward my in-person students. So I kind of put it at the corner of my room, so that way my virtual students can all see the in-person students. They're, that big on the screen, but whatever, it works. And my in-person students can look at the projected screen in order to see all of the virtual students. Also, you may want to consider a few extra little technology devices, if you will, one of them being a wireless mouse. Now I'm gonna go ahead and end both of these Google Meets because I no longer need them. But you may also want to consider using some other technology devices, such as a wireless mouse and a wireless presenter. So I have a wireless mouse that I actually connect to my desktop computer. Because I am bringing my laptop with me around the room on a cart, I'm easily able to use just the little scroll pad or whatever that's called on my laptop as a mouse, but I don't want to have to walk all the way over to my desktop in order to change tabs. Now, I can go up and tap them on my smartphone dartboard, but again, if I'm in the back of the room, that's a little bit of an inconvenience. So by having the wireless mouse connected to my desktop computer, I can actually use this, let's say in the back of the room, to change tabs and reshare the tab for my virtual learners. Similarly, I use a wireless presenter. Now, I've been using one of these for years in my classroom. Way before hybrid learning was a thing, I used this just with my normal students in order to click through my slideshows. But now I have discovered this actually works with NEARPOD. So if you are on the teacher version of the NEARPOD, you can use this to click through the slides, which is super handy. Or if you're presenting a slideshow, again, you can use this to click through the slides. I actually have put some Velcro on it. I used to attach this to the side of my document camera, so at the end of the day, I would attach it and I knew where to find it the next day. But I also have put some of the Velcro circles onto my cart, so that way I am able to put it on the cart whenever I'm not using it and then grab it out, use it, and put it back on the cart. That is it. That is my full hybrid technology setup overview, I guess. I hope that this video was helpful for you, and if it was, give the video a thumbs up. I know your technology is not the exact same as mine, but hopefully you got at least one or two ideas that you can try out in your own classroom. Don't forget to subscribe to me if you haven't already so you do not miss any future videos. As always, thank you for watching. I love you all so much. Don't forget to put your positive pants on, and I will catch you in the next one.